Have you ever felt that a woman lost interest in you and you could not explain why? As if something invisible switched off her attraction, even though you thought you were doing everything right? Maybe you were attentive, kind, available, even better than other men around her. And yet she pulled away, became cold, or simply vanished. If that has happened to you more than once, it is not bad luck, and it is not because all women are the same. It is because without realizing it, you are showing behaviors that her nervous system reads as low value. And when that happens, attraction collapses instantly. I want you to listen to me as if we were having a direct, honest conversation, man to man. Because what we are going to break down here are not superficial tricks, but deep patterns that women respond to at the level of instinct, psychology, and emotional wiring. Different authors in evolutionary psychology, attachment theory, social dynamics, and persuasion all coincide in something clave. Women no se sienten atraídas por lo que dices que eres, sino por la energía que transmites con tus comportamientos constantes. You can say you are confident, but if your behavior screams insecurity, her body will not believe you. This is why you see men who are not the most handsome, not the richest, not the most charming, and yet women are drawn to them, respect them, and stay with them. Those men avoid low-value behaviors almost automatically. They move from a place of self-respect, boundaries, mission, and calm masculine presence. On the other hand, most men who struggle with women are not broken, they are simply stuck in 2 or 3 of these low-value patterns that you are going to recognize very clearly once we start describing them. While you listen, do not defend yourself in your mind. Do not say, yes, but my situation is different. Seduction, when la ves desde psicología y estudios serios, tiene leyes muy claras. There are behaviors that signal value and behaviors that signal neediness, fear, and emotional instability. Women have learned, consciously or unconsciously, to detect these patterns, just like you instinctively feel when someone is fake or weak. Your job is not to blame yourself, but to identify these behaviors inside you and decide that they stop here. The more honest you are with yourself while you listen, the faster your results with women will change. Because each time you stop one low-value behavior, you remove a brick from the wall that is blocking your natural attractiveness. You do not need to become someone else. You need to stop sabotaging the man you already are. So stay with me until the end because you are going to see yourself in several of these points, and at the end I will show you how to start replacing these patterns with high-value behaviors that women cannot ignore. Let's start with one of the most repelling behaviors, and yet one of the most common in modern dating: chasing validation instead of leading with grounded self-respect. A lot of men today are addicted to micro-hits of approval. You send a message, and if she does not reply in 5 minutes, your mind starts spinning. You open her social media, you check if she is online, you wonder what you did wrong, you craft another message to fix it or to get a reaction. You are no longer relating with a woman, you are trying to calm your anxiety through her attention. Psychologically, this is pure neediness. You are telling her with your behavior, my emotional state depends on what you do. Women are extremely sensitive to this. Studies on attachment show that people who are anxiously attached tend to overinterpret neutral behaviors as rejection, and they react by chasing, over-communicating, and over-explaining. When you do that, you create pressure. You do not give the woman time to miss you, to think about you, to invest. You are constantly knocking at the door of her attention, and that is heavy. Nobody is attracted to weight that drains energy. A high-value man feels desire, of course. He likes her, he is interested, he enjoys connection. But his nervous system is not begging for validation. He can send a message and then go back to his life. He does not obsessively check his phone. If she takes time to respond, he does not jump into catastrophic stories. He has built an inner world so solid that her reply is a plus, not his oxygen. That calm detachment is extremely attractive because it signals that he is emotionally independent. And independence in seduction psychology is one of the strongest indicators of value. If you notice that your mood rises and falls depending on whether she writes to you, calls you, or gives you attention, you are giving her too much power too soon. And that is the first low-value behavior, tying your emotional stability to the reaction of a woman. The correction is not to play childish, hard-to-get games, but to genuinely invest more energy into your mission, training, friendships, and growth than into checking your phone. When you start doing that consistently, your energy becomes lighter, your vibe becomes less desperate, and paradoxically, women feel more drawn to you because you are not energetically chasing them. Now, from this first pattern, we move into a second behavior that repels women on a deep unconscious level, constantly over-explaining yourself and trying to justify every action. Many men think that explaining every detail will make them look honest and considerate. In reality, it often makes them look insecure and afraid of losing her. You say you are busy, and then you add 3 paragraphs to justify why. You say no to a plan and then you write an essay about how guilty you feel. You make a small mistake and instead of a simple apology, you go into emotional begging mode. In a woman's emotional radar, this shows that you are not rooted in your own decisions. You are secretly asking permission to exist. You are saying, "Please do not be upset with me. I am terrified of your disapproval." That is not attractive. Across many studies on dominance, leadership, and social influence, there is a clear pattern. The people who are perceived as most confident are those who communicate their decisions simply, directly, and without friction. Not aggressively, but with quiet certainty. Over-explaining is the opposite of that. It is the behavior of someone who doubts himself and expects to be attacked. A high-value man can say calmly, "I cannot this weekend. I already have plans, but I would like to see you next week." No paragraphs, no drama. No long stories about why. There is respect for her and respect for himself. If she tries to guilt-trip him, he does not enter defensive mode. He stays grounded. That environment of calm conviction makes her feel that she is with someone who knows what he is doing. On the other hand, if every decision you take comes accompanied by a wave of excuses, you crush her attraction. She does not feel emotional protection around you. She feels that she would have to protect your feelings all the time. If you notice that you are always justifying yourself, start practicing saying less. Be honest, be kind, but cut the excess. This is uncomfortable at the beginning because you are used to buying approval with words. But when you learn to tolerate that small internal tension, you are building a key masculine muscle. The ability to stand by your decisions without begging for reassurance. This single shift raises your value instantly in the eyes of women because you stop acting like a boy afraid of punishment and start acting like a man who trusts himself. Another low-value behavior that repels women almost immediately is pedestalizing them and giving them the status of a goddess before they have earned it with their character. Many men confuse attraction with worship. They meet an attractive woman and in their mind, they place her far above themselves. They start thinking in terms of, how can I keep her? Instead of, do we fit? Does this make sense? Do her values align with mine? Suddenly, everything about her is perfect. Everything she does is no problem. And every red flag is minimized because she is special. This dynamic destroys your value because you are signaling that you believe she is out of your league. If you feel that you are below her, she will feel it too. And most women do not want a man who sees himself as inferior. They want a man who can appreciate them deeply. Yes, pero desde la igualdad de valor. When you pedestalize her, you automatically devalue yourself, and attraction is always relative. If she is way above you in your own mind, then you are telling her that she could do better than you. Why would she stay? Authors who study romantic idealization show how dangerous it is when you put someone in that unrealistic position in your mind. You stop seeing reality. You ignore her selfishness, her immaturity, her lack of emotional responsibility just because you are intoxicated by her physical beauty or by the idea of not ending up alone. Women sense this intoxication. They feel that you are not really seeing them. You are seeing a fantasy. And nobody wants to be responsible for someone else's fantasy because that is too much pressure and zero authenticity. A high-value man can admire a woman, of course. He can enjoy her femininity, her intelligence, her body, but he does not see her as his savior, nor as his prize for finally being good enough. He sees her as a human being with virtues and flaws. He keeps his standards, his boundaries, and his dignity. He is capable of ending a connection if the dynamic becomes toxic, even if he feels a lot of attraction. That ability to walk away from something that does not respect him is one of the clearest signs of high value. If you feel that you are pedestaling women, bring them down to human level in your mind. Not to disrespect them, but to see them clearly. Ask yourself, if she lost her beauty tomorrow, would her character still impress me? Does she show kindness, loyalty, emotional intelligence, or is it just chemistry and projection? When you question your idealization, you stop behaving like a worshiper and start relating as an equal. And equality, in attraction terms, gives you a much more powerful presence. Let's move to another behavior that silently kills attraction, having weak or non-existent boundaries and tolerating disrespect, flakiness or testing without ever standing up for yourself. In the world of seduction, boundarylessness is one of the clearest signs of low value. Women test men, consciously or not, to see where their line is. They might cancel at the last minute repeatedly, push your buttons, make sarcastic jokes at your expense in front of others, or try to control you excessively. These behaviors are not always malicious. Sometimes they are simply ways to feel where your strength is. If every time something like this happens, you smile, say, "No problem," and swallow your discomfort, you are training her nervous system to see you as a man that she can step over. When that happens, attraction begins to mutate into something else. A mix of boredom, irritation, and maternal instinct. She no longer feels that she is with a man who can protect his own energy. She feels that she is with someone she can manipulate. And very few women stay attracted to a man they can manipulate without resistance. From psychology of attachment and couple dynamics, we know that secure people have clear, calm boundaries. They do not attack, but they do not tolerate repeated disrespect either. In seduction, a high-value man can say, "Listen, I like you, but if you cancel last minute again, I will take it as a sign that you are not really interested, and I will move on. I value my time." He says it without anger, but with seriousness. He respects her freedom, but he also respects his own. That type of communication wakes up something very powerful in her: respect. And respect is the foundation of sustained attraction. If you are always giving second chances, always letting things pass, always convincing yourself that it's not a big deal, you are lowering your value in her eyes. You are teaching her that there are no consequences for treating you poorly, and people, in general, treat better what they know they can lose. So if you want to raise your value, you need to become more comfortable with the idea of walking away from situations that consistently fail your standards, even if you feel desire, even if you are lonely. Another behavior that repels women is emotional chaos, being a man who cannot regulate his emotions, who explodes, complains constantly, or dumps all his unresolved pain on her. Many men believe that being vulnerable means pouring every insecurity, fear, and wound over a woman they just started seeing, expecting that she will heal them. That is not vulnerability, that is emotional dumping. And most women react by feeling overwhelmed and losing attraction. Research on attachment and emotional intelligence shows that the most attractive men are not those who never feel anything, but those who can feel deeply while staying regulated. In other words, they can feel fear, anger, jealousy, disappointment, but they are not slaves to those emotions. They do not lash out, they do not punish with silence, they do not throw tantrums. They express what they feel with clarity, they take responsibility for their reactions, and they seek solutions instead of drama. A low-value man, on the other hand, uses his emotions to manipulate or to test her love. He might say things like, "Without you I am nothing. If you leave me, I will be destroyed." Or he might explode in jealousy because she talked to another man, turning every situation into a battlefield. That does not make her feel desired, it makes her feel unsafe. And feminine energy closes when it does not feel safe. Attraction and desire cannot flourish in an environment of constant emotional volatility. Stoic philosophy talks a lot about the difference between what happens and how you respond. You cannot control everything, but you can always choose your response. When you start training this in your daily life, you become less reactive. You breathe before sending that angry message. You process your jealousy before accusing her of things in your head. You speak from calm instead of from rage. That emotional self-mastery is one of the most attractive masculine qualities. Women might not describe it with technical words, but they feel it. They feel that being around you is expansive, not draining. If you recognize yourself as someone who easily loses control, start small. Practice staying present in discomfort without acting impulsively. When you feel anger, do not immediately seek to solve it by attacking. Stay with it, observe it, and then communicate from a more grounded place. This does not make you cold, it makes you reliable. And reliability is attractive. Another low-value behavior is living without a clear mission, drifting, complaining about life while doing nothing to change it. You may think that women only care about how you treat them, but in reality, they also pay close attention to how you treat your own life. A man with no direction, no goals, no discipline, who spends his days numbing himself with distractions, sends a very clear message. I am not moving anywhere. That stagnation is one of the fastest attraction killers, especially for feminine women who desire a man with drive and direction. In evolutionary terms, women have always been more attracted to men who can create, build, protect, and provide something, not necessarily in material extremes, but in terms of stability and progress. In modern language, that translates into having a mission, a project, a path that matters to you. It can be your career, a business, an art, a craft, a cause. It does not matter what it is, but it must be something that pulls you forward. When a woman sees that your eyes light up when you talk about what you are building, she sees value. She sees a man connected to something bigger than his immediate comfort. If, on the other hand, your only mission is to get a girlfriend, your energy becomes extremely unattractive. You are moving around women like a satellite instead of being the planet. Authors in the seduction space often repeat this. Do not make women your mission. Bring them into your mission. That is a radically different energy. In the first case, you are chasing them to fill your emptiness. In the second case, you are inviting them to share a journey that you are already walking. If you are currently in a season of confusion and you feel lost, do not pretend to have everything figured out. That is not the point. The point is that you are actively moving, exploring, studying, training, trying things instead of complaining. A man who is in motion is far more attractive than a man who is stuck but comfortable. Decide what area of your life you want to improve and commit to daily action there. The more you build yourself, the less you obsess about women, and the paradox is that the less you obsess, the more they feel attracted. Another behavior that annihilates attraction is inconsistency and lack of integrity. Saying one thing and doing another, promising and not following through, playing games instead of being direct. Women are constantly reading whether your words match your actions. If you present yourself as different from other men, but then you lie, you ghost, you disappear when things get real, or you hide important information, she will not only lose attraction, she will lose trust. And once trust is broken, desire rarely survives. Persuasion research shows that credibility is one of the pillars of influence. People follow and respond to those they perceive as consistent. In seduction, this is the man whose behavior is predictable in the best sense. If he says he will call, he calls. If he sets a boundary, he keeps it. If he says he is not looking for a relationship, he does not play boyfriend to keep her around. If he says he values honesty, he does not hide basic truths. That alignment between speech and action creates a feeling of solidity around him. The low-value version plays the opposite game. He tells her what he thinks she wants to hear in the moment without thinking about the consequences. He uses lines, promises, exaggerated declarations to get what he wants now, and then he disappears when commitment is needed. At first, some women might fall for this, but sooner or later the mask drops, and when it does, the impression he leaves is one of immaturity and weakness, not power. A high-value seducer can be very clear about his intentions without guilt. He does not need to manipulate. His presence and clarity are enough. If you want to raise your value instantly, start with very simple practices. Do what you say you will do. If you are not sure you can commit to something, do not promise it. Tell the truth about your situation, even if it feels uncomfortable. If you only want something casual, express it respectfully. If you are open to something serious, do not play ambiguous games just to seem cool. The more your words and your actions align, the stronger your aura becomes. Women might not consciously think this man has integrity, but they feel a sense of relaxation around you that is extremely attractive. There is another subtle but very powerful low-value behavior: speaking negatively about yourself, other men and women in general. When you are constantly putting yourself down, making self-deprecating comments, or talking badly about your past partners and about women as a group, you are broadcasting bitterness and insecurity. Studies on attraction show that a positive explanatory style, the way you explain events, is correlated with higher social appeal and romantic success. People are drawn to those who can see challenges without falling into cynicism. If you are always the victim in your stories, if every ex-partner was crazy, if you describe yourself as unlucky, not enough, too broken, you might think you are just being honest. But what you are doing is programming her to see you through that lens. She hears that you see yourself as low value. And if you do not value yourself, why should she? On the other hand, if you speak about your past with responsibility, if you can say, "I made mistakes and I learned from them," if you talk about women with respect even when things did not work out, you show emotional maturity. A high-value man does not need to insult other men to look better, nor does he need to generalize about women to justify his pain. He can recognize his wounds without turning them into his identity. He speaks about himself with grounded confidence. He acknowledges his flaws, but he does not glorify them nor use them as a shield. That type of internal narrative is very attractive because it shows that he is not controlled by resentment. If you notice that you frequently use negative language about yourself or about relationships, start catching those patterns and reframing them. Instead of, "I always fail with women," say, "I am learning to choose and to show up better." Instead of, "All women are the same," say, "I had experiences with people who were not aligned with me, and now I choose differently." This is not naive. It is taking responsibility for your story. And when you do that, your energy shifts from victim to creator, which is a fundamental masculine polarity. Now that you have seen these behaviors, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Do not try to fix everything at once. That only creates more anxiety. Instead, ask yourself, which two behaviors hit me the hardest? Where did I feel that little punch in the stomach? That "he is talking about me" sensation? Those are the patterns that are most active in your life right now. And those are the ones that are silently repelling women, even if you think you are doing everything right on the surface. Your job over the next weeks is to observe yourself in real time. When you are about to send 5 messages in a row just to get a reaction, remember what we spoke about neediness and validation. When you start writing a long justification for a simple no, remember the power of concise, calm communication. When you feel tempted to pedestalize a woman you barely know, remember that she is human, with virtues and flaws, and ask yourself whether her character actually matches your standards. When you are about to tolerate something that goes against your values just because you are afraid of losing her, remember that every time you betray yourself to keep someone, you lower your value in their eyes. You do not have to become cold, manipulative, or emotionally distant. High value in seduction is not about being a stone, it is about being grounded. It is about connecting from choice, not from desperation. It is about desiring deeply without handing over your self-respect in the process. That is the sweet spot where women feel both attraction and admiration. They do not just want to be with you, they feel proud to be with you. As you shift these behaviors, you will notice something interesting. The women who used to play games with you will either change the way they interact or disappear. The ones who were only attracted to your weakness, to your lack of boundaries, will not be able to stay when you start respecting yourself. And that is good. Because it means you are creating space for women who resonate with your new standard, your new level of value. From the world of seduction, psychology, and Stoic philosophy, the message is always the same. Control what you can, release what you cannot. You cannot control which women like you, but you can control the behaviors you show, the story you tell with your actions, and the way you respond to your own emotions. You cannot force attraction, but you can stop killing it with patterns that scream fear, scarcity, and self-betrayal. Take this content, revisit it, write down the behaviors that you recognize in yourself and watch how they appear in your day. Every time you choose a high-value response instead of the old low-value pattern, you are sending a new signal to the world and to yourself. This is who I am now. And that identity, lived consistently, is what will make women feel that being with you is not just exciting, but also safe, inspiring, and irresistible.